Hey guys, Joel's back with another reasoning session, and today our passage comes from the Oracle of Joel, which, if you haven't figured out by now, is one of my favorite prophets.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
This is actually one of my favorite passages, the second chapter of Joel. And actually, this passage, like when I was going through one of the toughest times in my life and literally everything was stripped away from me, this passage gave me hope, and it actually gave me an anchor to look towards. And actually, when I came out of that, I was like Job, given like double portion. Like whatever was taken away was given back in abundance. So I just wanted to share this. For those of you that might not know a bit of my story, I actually had an office at one time and I was running a pretty good business, but there was still a lot of inner baggage that I hadn't taken care of. And as the business progressed, I realized that I was attracting more and more clients who were taking advantage of me, or just, not caring about business in general. And because I was looking to physical means for satisfaction and fulfillment, I was trying to hold on to those kind of clients. And I wasn't really seeking Source, because Source was trying to tell me that my talents were way better applied in doing what Source called me to do. But I was limiting myself, thinking that running a business, and particularly that kind of business, was the ideal scenario for my life. So eventually that had to be taken away from me. But in just letting it go and coming in tune with Source was like, hey, I've been here for you all along. And because you've really turned to the true source of your power, the true source of what will fulfill you and satisfy you and actually give you sustenance and abundance, I was able to break out of that and finally come in tune with who I am, why I'm here, and step into more of my own calling. And from there, things just accelerated. So this passage, I actually made a poster while I was going through this very trying time on this very passage. It's very funny because it's chapter 2, starting at verse 22. But I'm not going to start at verse 22 here. In the future, I actually want to do a whole study on this very prophet. Like, all his oracles are really profound and very passionate. You can tell that he's speaking with that fire, the fire of the Logos. But I'm going to go ahead and start at verse 25. Again, I'm reading from the authorized version, not my go-to version. I really like going to the original language and breaking down those meanings, because a lot is lost in translation and covered up, mind you, by institution. But for the purposes of this expose, it's going to suffice, and I am going to do a little bit more explanation into a few words that we come across here. So verse 25 goes, "And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm, and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you." So we see that the people that he's talking to have had their share of trials, and they've been beaten up, not just by the locust, but then actually we read in chapter 1, verse 4, starting off these oracles, that which the palmer worm has left. This is talking about when the palmer worm comes and eats their crop, the locust has eaten. And that which the locust has left has the cankerworm eaten. And that which the cankerworm has left has the caterpillar eaten. So we're seeing that, you think you have something left, and then all of a sudden this next swarm comes in and just obliterates it. And then you think that's over. Okay, let's glean whatever we have left. And then there's another infestation. And then you're like, oh my goodness, we lost everything. What do we have left? And just before you think you might be able to recover, another infestation comes and literally just decimates you. So that's a bit of the background on this passage, and just gives you a sense of the urgency of the people whom he's delivering it to. And it totally parallels, what we've been through in this last little while. We've seen like what was supposed to be just 2 weeks, right, to flatten the curve. Now we're looking at 1 year. And what some people thought would have been solved just with a simple election, well, we saw how easy it was for the other side to steal that and just brush it off, right? Totally pretend like nothing happened. But like I keep saying, divine justice isn't mocked. And that divine justice, of course, has been personified as a literal personal God. But God is just source. God is that power that gives all things life and all things sustenance and literally makes manifest what we see as created physical reality. That's what this whole thing is explaining, right? It's doing so in a personal context based on the cultural paradigms of the people who are writing it down. But that is essence. The same phrase that means God is life. That's the source. That's the life essence. And this life essence embodied in the term Yahweh is the divine justice. What you put out is what you get back. And so whatever was taken from us was only taken from us to get rid of distractions that were keeping us from who we actually are and who we've come here to be, what we've come to help and bring forth into this world. So when all that is removed, when the locust and the canker, and actually this is very interesting, I do want to point this out, because in the original language, this refers to the whole life cycle of the locust. Like it starts off by saying what the locust has eaten, and the Hebrew term for that is arbe, but then it goes on to say, cankerworm, caterpillar, and palmer worm. And those words in the original language are yelek, chasil, and gazam. And those refer to, like, first you have the locust larva, which is, that little kind of critter, that curly critter kind of thing. And then you have the young locust, which is the locust without wings. And then you have like the adolescent locust, which is the one that's just starting to grow wings, but it's not quite ready to fly yet. So it's talking about the whole life cycle, right? It's literally covering the whole process that, decimation covers from beginning to end, and it's putting it in symbolic terms. But the passage continues, and you shall eat devouringly. This is after the crops have been restored, and be satisfied, and praise the name of Yahweh your God. That is the cyclic God, right? The personification that actually represents seed time harvest. Basically, what you put out is what you get back. And as we're seeing, what a lot of the media and controllers, manipulators are putting out, I don't want to be in their seat when justice really shows up. But I know what seeds I'm planting now, and that's what the promise is here, that everything that was seemingly taken away is going to be restored, and not just restored, but restored in abundance. And that is when you will actually recognize and praise this essence that is Yahweh, the God of cyclic justice, which deals with you extraordinarily. And my people shall never be ashamed. Now that word shamed is very interesting, because the root for that is the Hebrew word bush, which actually means to blush, or for your face to flush due to embarrassment or humiliation, just because you're being bullied or intimidated. Another way that you can put this phrase, which is aptly profound for the situation we're facing right now, which just seems like, time is dragging on, and when is this whole thing going to be resolved, and when are we going to see these crooks brought to some semblance of justice? Kenneth Knox's translation says, and my people will not be cheated of their hope. So know that no matter whatever you're putting out, whatever your seeds you're planting, you are going to grow a harvest. That's just the law of the nature of this physical reality. What you put out is what you get back. It won't happen right away, and sometimes it seems like, evil is flourishing. Just keep planting those seeds, because you're tending a garden. That's what we're here to do. And when that garden actually flourishes, the only reason that evil is flourishing now is because good people have been silent for far too long. But we're speaking up because we know our true power comes from inside. And those of us that have actually created a playing field in which these evil forces have no choice but to lose. The passage even continues, you will know that in the midst of Israel I am, and I am Yahweh, your God, and without equal. So there literally is nothing that can compete with this force that is divine justice. And the whole reason why this thing is seemingly dragging on for time is it's giving people time to wake up and maybe change the side they're on and come to the side of good, because it's the essence of this universe that leans towards goodness. And it leans towards a state of restoration, and we're always in a state of constant growth. So that is what Source wants for people, but it's obvious, and it's getting more and more obvious as time goes on, that the people that have chosen the side of destruction and manipulation and falsities, that they're just running in that direction. They're not looking back. And when they do that, Source has a special plan for them. We'll cover that in some future video. But again, this phrase is repeated, and my people shall never be ashamed. Now, when Source repeats something, particularly in oracles, pay attention. Pay attention, because that is the essence of what the oracle is about. This is all about the fact that we are not being cheated out of divine justice, and literally everything that seems to be happening that's detrimental, everything that seems to be taken away from us, is only for our benefit, so that we actually step into more of who we're here to be. So I know things might seem rough for a bit, and we might not know exactly what's going on, particularly with the false narratives that are being perpetrated, in a sea of information. It's easy to get drowned in, but focus on Source, because Source is speaking within, and Source will guide you to the right information. Even what I say, if you don't agree with it, guys, just go to Source, and Source will guide you to something that's right for you. But I know where I stand. I know I'm seeking Source like never before, and the essence and the truth and just the abundance that's come into my life in this little period is far beyond anything I had, even before anything I had when I had a print shop and I had an office and I had employees and clients and all of that stuff. So step into your true talent, because it's in your true talent that you'll find true potential, and will actually all help to co-create a reality and a world that we know we're deserving of, and that we know is in harmony with our best life yet. So that's all I have to say on this passage. I really want to do a in-depth maybe study on this oracle and maybe see how that goes, and we'll see how the future of these episodes go. But this is one of my favorite oracles, and I really like sharing from this one. So I'll see you in the next video. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Joel signing out once again. Stay well and stay optimistic, because we are moving forward. Agape, Salaam, Namaste.